Welcome back to Love Your Food. Today Chef Caleb is going to show you his recipe for Texan-style chili. Now, Chef Caleb hails originally from Houston, Texas, so this is his recipe for Texan-style chili. Now this is a Texas-style chili. It does not have any beans in it. It is going to be a meat and veggies dish. It is a very rich chili with a lot of flavor, and let's get going on some ingredients here. So we'll start off, we have some large onions here, and then our chili powder, which is comprised of cumin and oregano, along with garlic. And we have several different chili peppers here. We have guajillo, ancho, and chipotle chilies here. And then we're also going to have, we've got 2 cans of diced tomatoes. And what we have here is finger meat from the grocery store. That is beef from between the ribs. It is rib meat without the bones. So first things first, we're going to mix up our chili powder, which is going to be comprised of the cumin, the oregano, and also our chili peppers. Now we're going to be tossing our chili peppers in here. We do want to remove the seeds from these bigger ones. They do contain a lot of seeds. So as you can see here, I'm just going to show you. Chef Caleb's going to pull out some of the innards and try to remove some of the seeds as well. Now, everyone's chili powder is a little bit different. People use different chilies, people use different proportions to the spices, more garlic, less oregano, less cumin, more chilies. As I said, different chilies as well. This is the recipe that we like. There are lots of dried chilies available on the market, and of course, you can dry your own, buy fresh chilies. You can buy Cubanelles. You can buy all sorts of different styles of chilies and dry them yourself, jalapeno, whatever you like. So Caleb prefers the ancho, guajillo, and the chipotle. The chipotle, of course, is a smoked jalapeno pepper. And you can see this huge pile of seeds just gathering there. And we're going to stuff all of that into our spice grinder. You may remember the spice grinder from our meatball episode. Now the chipotles are just going to go in whole. They're not quite as seedy, but as you can see here, the guajillo and the ancho both have tons and tons of seeds inside. You do want to get rid of some of those. It will affect the heat. The seeds add quite a lot of heat and a little bit of a sort of an earthy, woody flavor as well. So that's not to everyone's taste. Again, you can personalize this however you like. If you want the seeds in there, you're welcome to it, but we tend to prefer without. These dried chilies really do come apart very easily for removing the seeds, and you also want to take the stem out as well. Some people also like to remove the ribs, the white part on the inside that's dried. That will also affect the flavor and the heat of your chilies. There is quite a lot of the heat in there, so if you want, you can also add some fresh peppers. If you want a lot of heat, you can add something like a scorpion or ghost chili. And here you go. You can see it all stuffed into our spice grinder here. We're going to grind that up. Once again, you do want to have a dedicated spice grinder or you will end up with spicy coffee. So give that a good grind until it's pretty well powdered up. And I will show you adding that to the chili when we're at the onion stage. Next, we're going to take our meat. So as I said, this is what the grocery store called it finger meat. So this is basically rib meat without the ribs. And what you really want for chili, because it's a low and slow sort of cooking process, it's going to be one of those things that stews for a long time, is you want something that's a stewing meat. We here are using the rib meat. Chuck works very well. Shank, brisket, rib, all very, very good. Whole meat we find works better than ground meat. Some people use ground chuck or anything. That's fine. We just prefer the larger pieces of meat that we're going to stew for a long time. You can also put things in here like oxtail if you don't mind eating around some bones. And any kind of pork that you would normally stew also will work well in this. You can use poultry as well. I do recommend, if you're going to use poultry, again, something that will stew for a long time. Dark meat certainly is going to be a benefit here. So first we're going to start with seasoning the meat. Good amount of pepper and salt on there, just black pepper and salt. And we're going to put that into our nicely already heated cast iron and get a good sizzle going on there. Here we have our cast iron. And in the meat goes. You want to get a good sear on that, just for that beautiful dark seared flavor. And as that cooks, it's also going to add some flavor that we're going to be taking up from the bottom of our pan there. We like to start that fat side down just so it renders a little bit out, gives a little bit of juices for the beef to cook in. And here we are turning it over. Oh God, such an amazing smell in the kitchen. You want to get a really nice sear on there, very nice and dark. In the meantime, while the beef is browning, we're going to get some onions in the pot, along with a little bit of oil. We actually used a little bit of the fat that we trimmed from the beef. You can use bacon fat, you can use vegetable oil, whatever you like. Just use a nice high smoke point oil or fat in there. A little bit of salt, and give it a good stir. Make sure all the onions get a little coating with the oil that you're using. And we're just going to let those wilt a little bit until they're about translucent. So here you go. They've been cooking for a little while. A lot of the juices have rendered in there from the salt. And those are looking great. So, next we're going to add our spices. In with the garlic. Don't be afraid to be generous with the garlic. This is going to be a very complicated flavor in this dish, and it can take it. And then in with our spice mix. You can see here we're, again, being very generous with the spice mix. And then you want to give it all a good stir. We're just going to wake up the spices a little bit with the heat. So get your onions good and coated with that spice mix. And then we're going to start moving our beef from the pan into our pot. So once these are good and browned, you want to make sure it's all browned, and we're just going to toss it all in here. And you can see what remains in the pan. Some beautiful little crispy bits that still sizzle. That has a lot of flavor in it, and we're going to give that a little quick deglaze. Now you can deglaze this with a number of things. Red wine is popular. You can use water. We're actually going to use just a little bit of the liquid from the tomato cans, and then the rest of the tomato is going to go into the pot. So both of our cans of tomato. And then a little bit in our pan here just to deglaze that. Any flavorful liquid will work in there to bring up some of that, those crispy bits of beef and all that flavor. So once you've got pretty much everything up off the bottom of that cast iron, or stainless steel, whatever you're using, into the pot it goes. And now we're going to give it a good stir. Now, if you find that you don't have quite enough liquid from the cans of tomato, if it's not quite covering all of the contents of your pot, then absolutely you want to top that off with something. And you can use anything you like. You can use water, you can use something a little more flavorful, you can use red wine. But you do want to make sure that you have enough liquid. Now, we're just going to top this off. In this case, we're just going to rinse out the can of tomato with a little bit of water, get the last of the tomato juice out, and make sure we have enough liquid in there. And there you have it. So then you want to make sure that it gets good and hot, so increase that heat until it simmers. And then once it's simmering, you want to reduce it to low. And we're just going to pop the lid on, but not quite closed. We want to keep it cracked, and this is going to go for a lot of hours. You want to stir it occasionally, just to make sure that nothing is sticking to the bottom or burning. But this is going to cook for 3 to 5 hours total. You can see it darkening up a little bit too as it cooks. The juices are reducing, and keep that covered. And then just before we're serving, we are going to add a little bit of masa flour. So this is it's a type of corn flour that's been nixtamalized, and it's going to thicken our chili's gravy a little bit. So what we're going to do is just add a little bit of the gravy to the masa flour, just enough to make a little bit of a paste, almost a roux, except we're not using fat, we're using the gravy. And we're just going to mix that up until we get a nice little paste in there, and that will make it easier to incorporate into our chili. And that's going to give a little bit of flavor and a really nice thickening to the chili gravy. So once that's well blended into a nice paste, we're just going to toss that in there. Now you do want to add this at least 15 minutes before you're going to serve it, because that raw flour does need to cook for a while before it tastes right. So give that at least 15 minutes and make sure it's well combined in there. Just give it a good little mix into your chili, and using the paste and mixing it in that way just makes it a little easier to blend it. Otherwise, if you just add the flour without making a paste first, it tends to get a little clumpy. So making the paste just makes your life a little bit easier. And there's that chili for you. As you can see, the veggies are kind of all melting together into the gravy. And here you go, we're all set, we're all done. Now, this is an incredibly rich, very, very dense food. You don't need a whole lot on a serving. Do taste it. If you find it a little too hot and you want to add some sour cream, that's fine. Traditional serving, a little bit of chopped red onion on top, a little bit of sour cream, some shredded cheese. We like it with either crackers or tortilla chips. And there's our Texan-style chili. If you enjoyed this recipe, please like and subscribe. And if you have any requests for Chef Caleb, then please let us know in the comments below. And remember to love your food.